Thank you for joining today's coffee talk. So get your coffee mugs ready, fill them up, enjoy some nice coffee as we discuss here our Gen AI topic today, brewing AI success. So just again, want to thank everybody for your time to join us. And I'd like to do a little intro to myself for those who don't know me, and to Dennis, my guest. So for those who don't know me, my name is Jim Pross. Of course, I work for Evolving Solutions. I'm a solution architect, so been doing that for 25 years. So it's been a fun journey. I like it a lot. So with architect, and we dabble with a lot of stuff, right? Data centers, storage, compute, hypervisors, and now we're as the industry is changing, we're getting into Gen AI and everything like that. So, and then I have a special guest here, is Dennis Arnold from Nutanix. Dennis, do you want to give yourself a quick intro?
Sure, you bet. Thanks, Jim. Hey, everybody. Thanks again for joining. Dennis Arnold here with Nutanix, coming to you live from Fort Worth, Texas. I'm a channel SE with Nutanix, which means that my job is to make sure that Jim doesn't tell any lies on this webinar. No, I'm just kidding. He won't do that. I'm sure of that. But as a channel SE at Nutanix, my job is actually to make sure that our most awesome partner is always enabled and ready to have these discussions. I've been at Nutanix now for about 7 years, and I'm really excited about AI, Gen AI. I've started using it a lot, and I think it really represents a net new workload for the industry as a whole. I've been in the industry for a long time, just like Jim has, and you could tell by us sporting our white hair on our faces and heads here. But I'll turn it back over to Jim, and I want to make sure that we all come away from this session with some enhancement of our knowledge around AI, generative AI, GPT, and the concepts and the value that these things bring.
Yes. Thanks, Dennis. Yeah, thanks for making that comment on our hair there. So for those who are in our audience who are new to Evolving Solutions, I'll do a quick intro. Evolving Solutions is a technology solutions provider. We're focused on helping clients moderate and automate their mission critical infrastructure for a hybrid cloud world. Evolving Solutions was founded in '96. We deliver client-centric consulting and technical solutions. We span platforms, data storage, network and cybersecurity to drive digital transformation and innovation. So we also, with deep partnerships across the industry, we simplify technology to empower businesses to thrive in an ever-changing landscape. So Dennis, could you give an intro to Nutanix for those who may not be familiar with Nutanix?
Sure, absolutely. Hopefully, most of you know of Nutanix, or at least have heard of Nutanix. But Nutanix is a cloud software company, right? We deliver a platform that allows you to run any app with any data across multiple hybrid cloud environments. And the core construct of Nutanix always has been hyper-converged, but it's more about delivering a modern platform for modern workloads, such as one that we're going to talk about today, and to make sure that it's easy to manage, easy to deploy, and to make sure that it's easy to operate from a day two perspective, right? We sort of combine all of this with a variety of tools, and again, the end game for us, or the sole purpose for us, is to make infrastructure invisible and make your app deployment and data needs easy and available.
Cool, thanks, Dennis. So Dennis, our topic today is to me, it's very exciting. To me, it's a game changer, our topic today, sorry, not tonight. Gen AI is really a big topic, and it has several use cases. I mean, some of these, like supercharging the customer experience. I mean, this part is what really kind of excites me. I mean, I've used it. I'm sure a lot of people in our audience have used Gen AI, and I mean, it helps you generate text, right? You can do stories. You can helps you with your email. It helps you summarize things that you're doing instantly. I mean, it answers questions, right? It delivers clear explanations on insights on any topic. I mean, and also it assists with ideas like you brainstorm concepts. It can give you an outline and so forth. And what I also like is how it facilitates learning. I mean, like technical terms, if you're kind of like, what does that mean? Or what does this mean? You could just ask it, hey, what is Gen AI inferencing? Boom. It gives you the information right away, what it means and so forth. So that part of the supercharge of customer experience is exciting to me. And also, it accelerates code and content creation. I'm sure people in our audience, if you're in the IT world, you've used Gen AI to help you with some writing some code. I mean, it can generate snippets, it can do functions, it can do an entire program, right? I mean, you can just say, hey, create me a Python script and sort a list. It'll do it, right? It also does like auto completion and it does debugging. So it's very helpful in that area. And then it also helps with security. I mean, it strengthens the defenses, does fraud detection, threat detection, automated policy creation. It can do pattern recognition, learn normal behavior, as we see in a lot of the software out there today, flags anomalies and does fraud. So anomaly detection. So this is pretty exciting how what the use cases are for Gen AI. So some of the things I've used it for, again, one of the things I really like it is like dictionary. I don't know, when you usually go to a normal dictionary, you just type in a word and it kind of just boom, it gives you. But hey, with Gen AI, when I put that word in, I get examples, I get some more detail. So I really like that. And then one time, it was like a customer came to me and said, hey, I want to list all of my VMs on my Nutanix cluster. I want to list them all. I want to know how many I have, how many snapshots they're using, and how old those snapshots were. And I was like thinking, well, hey man, there's API calls for that, right? But I haven't done that. And then, so I said, hey, I just told it, write me a PowerShell script front end that would do these API calls. I just kept telling it what to do, and it did it. It did it. I just kept adding and adding and adding. And it was just, it took hours. Where if I would have done it on my own, it would have been weeks, and I probably would have got frustrated. So it's really helpful and stuff like that. How about you, Dennis? I mean, how has Gen AI helped you?
No, it's funny. I keep discovering new ways to use the GPT and to use Gen AI. It kind of started in much the same way it started with you, right? You get these sort of supercharged definitions of things, but then I started to kind of really dial in on it, and I like to work on engines and motorcycles and things like that, and sometimes I
Cool.
need a fluid capacity or a torque specification or something of that nature. And with Gen AI, I can just with GPT, I can just ask the question, and it gives me a correct answer. Now, I've used it for some coding. I'm not a coding guy, but I maintain this website with some old PHP scripting that it's next to impossible to find references for. So I'll ask GPT about that. But on a more personal note, I've discovered that I think we all kind of maybe have a family member that sends messages in some sort of long, rambling format in a group
Never.
text or whatever, right? And you're like, what is this person talking about? What are they trying to say? Because maybe they like drunk texted you or whatever with no context. And so you can actually take those messages and feed those into GPT, and it will it'll actually interpret that and spit out an explanation, a summary of whatever this person is talking about, and sort of make sense of it. So anyway, just kind of fun little ways to use GPT in your day-to-day lives.
Yep. Yeah. So like to me, Dennis, in the Gen AI world, the killer moment was really when Chat GPT came out. I mean, that was kind of like to me the killer moment. I'm sure it was for a lot of people. But there's a lot of this hype though that's talking about this. So what is all this hype that's surrounding Chat GPT?
Well, I think that you're absolutely right. ChatGPT was a killer moment. I've heard some people say that AI, GPT is, like the second coming of the internet.
Mhm.
It's very, very transformative. It really is a game changer in terms of how we get information, how we gather information, how we, in many cases, how we use information, right? And the ability to not have to learn some sort of new sort of query language to get the information
Mhm.
we need is becoming increasingly valuable to end customers, to regular commercial businesses. Now, we can use it for a lot of things that, as we talked about, right? I mean, and when it really kind of blew up was when we realized we could use it for writing essays, answering questions, developing code. We see GPT and Gen AI as a mechanism for solving real problems, and also from alleviating us from these very long and arduous, in many cases boring tasks, or even sparking creativity. When
Right.
we ask GPT to generate some sort of content that we had in mind, it could take that and build context and content around whatever it is that we're looking for. So we could say, oh well, maybe all of this is just making us dumb, but I don't necessarily think that's the case. I
Mhm.
think that really it helps us save time. I mean, think about, the use case that I gave you where I go searching through a manual for a specific task or function, right? And by then, maybe I've run out of time to do the task or function, right? Or get sidetracked because my wife says I need to go clean the pool so she can go swimming, whatever the case might be. My point is that it's a real time saver, and it really, I think, makes me a lot more productive and keeps me on track.
Yep.
But yeah, definitely a game changer.
Yeah.
And so you could think about. Go ahead, Jim. Sorry.
I'll just say, imagine. I was just thinking as you're talking here, Dennis, is like, I was just like, imagine like you're right now, like when you use ChatGPT, it's all data that's kind of out on the internet, right? It's all public information. But just think of like when you could do that same kind of concept with your internal company's information or your technical documents. I mean, I have technical documents that I've used over the years, right? So I still have to go and search and find stuff. Could you imagine if I could get that data within like a ChatGPT interface? I could just ask it questions and it could get my information or, company internal information or, vendor specific, give me this see this validated design, give me these technical information. Instead of me clicking all over the place, I can just look at my internal documentation. So that's
And
pretty
that's where we
neat.
really that's where we really start to unlock the value
Yep.
from a corporate perspective.
So, even though we've been talking about there's a lot of cool stuff about Gen AI, right? We've been, all this neat stuff we've been just talking about, but there's are some challenges to it, right? There's you know, as we discussed here, it's public facing so far, ChatGPT. It uses OpenAI, ChatGPTs. It uses Grok as another example. You can use Microsoft's Copilot, but these are all gathering information. They're all assisting with tasks. They've been trained on vast, diverse data sets. They have been trained on tons of information. But when it comes to that specific private data that we mentioned, getting it to work with our data, they're limited to what they can do, right? And I don't know if we've probably heard about this, but they can kind of generate, ChatGPT can kind of do that hallucination, right?
Yep.
That hallucination where it occurs when a Gen AI model produces output that it's confident, but it's not correct, right? It's not technically lying, right? I mean, it kind of seems like it, but it's not actually intentionally lying. It's actually filling in the gaps with what it thinks best, right? So, but for
Mhm.
private data right now, since it hasn't been learned on private data, it's almost an inevitable that unless the model has been fine-tuned, it's going to, give hallucinations on that kind of data. We don't want that. We want accurate information, right? So
Most definitely. Yeah.
using ChatGPT against companies' private data opens the doors, right? It kind of opens the doors for efficiency. It opens the doors for training. How can we use ChatGPT in a secure environment with our private data?
Hmm. Yeah, you don't want to go ask the subtotal of the knowledge on the internet about your own company's vacation policy as an example, because there's a good chance that you will get a hallucination, right? It's kind of like you were talking about, Jim. To me, it's kind of like asking a 5-year-old a complex question, right? A 5-year-old is going to answer a complex question within the context of what it knows. It's going to, 5-year-old's going to answer the question and talk about, bugs and dinosaurs and cartoons that they've watched. But it's not that they're lying. It's just that the answer is based on known context. So we have to make sure that the context for the data that we reference is based on our own data and a company perspective and from a company's perspective. And we want to use what we refer to as private GPT for that. And that's really one of the most common use cases for GenAI. So you're going to ask a question that's going to inevitably be received or ingested, if you will, by a large language model. And with private GPT, the context and the data that's used to formulate the answer, the natural language answer, is going to be based on data that is corporate data, right? And so the context and the data is always going to be accurate, or ideally, it's always going to be accurate. But unfortunately, sometimes if the actual data that you're asking for is missing, AI can create an answer that it thinks is accurate, but again, may not be accurate. So we have to be careful about the data and how we train it. And one of the things that helps a lot is, using private GPT with a RAG pipeline and things like that, so that we can get accurate answers.
Yeah, so you mentioned another acronym, RAG, and you'll get into that real shortly here. We'll describe that, but that's kind of interesting term we wanted to touch on. But can you explain how GenAI learns this private data? Because it has to learn it, right? You just can't, I mean, it's been trained on all this public data. Now, how do we get the GenAI to learn our private data?
Yeah, really, the way we start, and there's really two mechanisms. There's fine tuning, and there's RAG. RAG means retrieval augmented generation. So if we start with fine tuning, right? So we can one of the deployment processes or one of the ways we deploy GenAI and begin to use it is we have to use a pre-trained model, and the model is the entity that generates the answer to the question, right? And the model is trained against a specific data set. So we feed it a data set and it learns from that particular data set, right? And that data set could be, tens or hundreds of thousands of internal company documents, email, messaging systems, things like that. But the model has to continuously be retrained. It's very compute intensive, right? But what it does is it bakes the company data into the model's training. And this is all fine and good.
Okay.
But the problem that you run into with simply fine-tuning the model is that it's an ongoing process. You have to continue to fine-tune the model. Again, very resource intensive. But if I leverage retrieval augmented generation, I'm setting up the model in the same way, and I'm leveraging private data in the same way, but it's the creation of the answer that difference. You see, when the query arrives and I'm using retrieval augmented generation, the relevant data, the private data used to create the answer is first retrieved. Then the answer is augmented from the context with which I'm asking the question, like use a particular document or use company information. And then a response is created that is based on the retrieved information. And so you don't have to train the model and have it learn about all of your data permanently, right?
It sounds
It accesses data dynamically
right.
when the question is asked.
So,
So
so it sounds
it's a go ahead.
sounds more efficient, kind of like you're not, like you mentioned, you're not having to retrain it, right? However, in the fine tuning, you got to give it more data, train it, give it more data, train it. But with RAG, I don't have to really train it. The data is there. It knows where to look. It's constantly getting it. So it's like you're keeping your model up to date consistently with RAG.
Exactly. It
Yeah,
picks up on the data updates and the data changes instantaneously when the question is asked.
cool. So what are some additional challenges on Gen AI and ChatGPT? What are some additional challenges that are out there?
Well, additional challenges, we'll start with learning curve,
Hmm.
right? A lot of organizations, they don't know the use case that they want to apply
Right.
AI to, and they don't know where to begin. Another thing that we run into is data privacy concerns, right?
Mhm.
You may think your data is not very important, but that's only until somebody else gets a hold of it and uses it against you, right? So we got to make sure that data privacy is contained. And most customers are a lot more comfortable with their own on-premises security model than they would be with just
Right.
taking their data and pushing it out to the internet, right? So data
Yeah.
privacy is a concern. And then
I mean,
also there's
real quickly. I mean, think about this. This is the crown jewels of the company, right? This is their data. We don't want this data getting out. We have trade secrets. We have, what we're doing, vision, projects we're working on. We do not want this data to get out to the public. We want it to be on very secure. So yeah, it's interesting.
agreed 100%. And then there is a level of complexity, right? I mean,
Yep.
this is AI is not simply an application that you go download and install on a Linux or Windows VM, right? That's been kind of the nature of application deployment for many years. We've
Right.
only recently really, I think, began to adopt the idea of leveraging containers for applications or containerizing applications or using microcode. And these are concepts and terms that might be somewhat foreign to all of you, but understand that AI is a containerized workload, and it does require containers. So we've got to really start. Well, I wouldn't say start there. We've got to really get to the point where we understand the components, and then you'll understand the complexity that I'm referring to. But you've got to have GPUs as an example in
Right.
that hardware. So there is a little bit of hardware specialization as it relates to AI. So you're not going to take this, generally speaking, and just sort of glom it onto some old three-tier infrastructure that you have laying around and expect
Right.
that to facilitate business critical workload. And this will become business critical. So you got to have the right hardware. You've got to have a container orchestration platform. You've got to be able to handle Kubernetes, and it in and of itself can be very complex. And then finally, once you've got those two things in place, now you can deploy the GenAI framework, which has a number of requirements, a number of container pods that are used, the UI, the API, the application dashboard, the model controller pod, the overall interface for managing and controlling the models, right? So there's a lot of elements here. It's not just a thing that you just go
Right.
drop in and, hey, yeah, it's already up and running and I can ask it questions now.
Yeah, for DevOps person, Kubernetes, piece of cake. But to a normal, regular IT admin, that can be a big step, right? Deploying and managing a Kubernetes infrastructure. So So Dennis, this is like a ton of information to unpack here. Setting up a private GPT kind of feels a little daunting. I mean, how does Nutanix AI begin to tackle this complexity of getting AI up and running? How does it do
Well,
that?
like most everything with Nutanix, we try our best to make it easy. We used to have various campaigns that we would run. Fewer clicks is better. Uh,
Mhm.
um, complexity is evil, and complexity creates blind spots, and so on and so forth. So what it boils down to is simplicity. And so we've taken the same approach with deploying Gen AI and deploying AI and even deploying Kubernetes workloads. So I'm not going to go through the steps associated with deploying Kubernetes in and of itself. But once you have Kubernetes up and running on a platform that facilitates Gen AI, you may already have this. We'll talk about that in a moment. But once you have that, now you can actually go through the process of deploying the components for Gen AI. And Nutanix makes that easy through a wizard-driven interface. So again, deploy and run AI on any Kubernetes, right? That's the first thing. So we are not locking you in to our solution for using turnkey AI. We're telling you that if you already have a platform for container orchestration, you can simply deploy Nutanix Enterprise AI on that. So you've got Kubernetes. That's step one. Step two, you log into the interface and you just begin to go through the wizard. And as a process of going through this wizard, you'll pick an LLM. There's only about 300,000 or so to choose from.
Just a little
We'll
bit.
help you. There's a few out there, right?
Yeah. Yep.
We'll help you figure that out. Evolving will help you figure that out. But you'll choose a model, and then you go through the process of creating a secure endpoint, which is going to basically retrieve or receive, if you will, the query and pass that to the model. And these things all work in concert with one another. And then finally, we end up with API keys, programming interface keys that allow us to access that endpoint that we've just created. So we're not manually creating these things. Like I said, we're going through a wizard. We're going to create the endpoint keys. We're going to create the API. We're going to test that against the model that we've downloaded, and then we have the API keys, this tangible thing that we can deliver to our developers. And the developers can then use what they have, use that programming interface to create some interface for the AI system. That could be in the form of a website. That could be in the form of an application plugin. That can be in the form of a custom written chat bot in a messaging system. I'm not the expert on that. Evolving is the expert on that
Yep.
as far as that what the user interfaces with, and we'll talk about that again
Yep.
in a second. But the point here is that we try to make it easy for you to go from zero to productivity as it relates to an AI workload.
Yeah. So like number one there, it's deploys a Kubernetes platform, deploys the whole infrastructure. So if you don't have one, you don't have to be an advanced Kubernetes admin to do this, right? And, I mean, the whole solution here, I don't have to be advanced data scientist either. This is kind of exciting. So let's look.
No, yeah,
Let's look and see how it works. Let's dig into that.
yeah. So once you have gone through that wizard, once you've gone through that process, generally speaking, this is what you have available to use. And this is just kind of a high level architecture design of the various components and that contains also some of the ways that they interact. Now, when you look at what you see in the larger box in gray, these are the things that are provided by the Kubernetes orchestration platform.
Mhm.
So this is what you might have already deployed. If you're using Nutanix Kubernetes platform, then these things would have already been deployed for you during the installation or the deployment of Nutanix Kubernetes platform or NKP. So you see those things in gray. that are deployed as part of the container platform. The things in purple are deployed as a part of the Nutanix AI solution. And you can see there's a number of components there. I'm not going to go through and define each and every one of those because, you know, all of those things are kind of a little bit less important, you know, at our level than the interoperability and the way those components interact. Now, I will say that were you to choose the components like NKP and NAI from Nutanix, understand that we have already tested and validated all of these individual components. We wrap all of those individual components into our own lifecycle management, and moreover, we support those things. So if you have a problem with the solution, obviously you don't have to go through a bunch of internet forums to figure out why your open source Prometheus is not functioning correctly. You call Nutanix because we own that. We deployed that on our solution as a part of an opinionated stack. So you get one place to call, that's Nutanix. And with our NPS score of 90, you can be pretty sure that you're going to get great support when you do call us. The one thing we do not do as a part of this solution, remember, is that the which is the end user access point. We don't deploy that automatically into the solution, and one of the reasons is because that can exist in a number of different forms. We rely on, and you should rely on, evolving and their technical capabilities to actually create that endpoint interface.
Yeah, so you bring up a good point there, Dennis. So like on the left, that's where the IT or the AI admin, they're using the GUI, right? They're creating inference endpoints, right? They're managing it. They have the control of this. But on the right side, that's the end users, right? That's where the deployed application that is leveraging one of the inference endpoints that the IT admin created on the left. So, you know, making AI work is a big part of the challenge, right? But how you use the output is another important consideration. Evolving solutions can help you build the right interface with your AI, whether it's a chatbot, like in this example, or it's integration to another system. Evolving solutions can assist in that area. So let's move on to the next part here. It was kind of interesting. You know, AI looks promising as you're talking about to simplify this deployment, to simplify things. But our customers, I think you talked about this briefly, but are they tied? Are they locked into a certain platform, or do they have a choice?
No, absolutely not. That's another one of our core ideas with Nutanix is we want customers to have choice. We want customers to be able to choose a platform that they're comfortable with. We want customers to be able to choose a hypervisor that they're comfortable with. Now, obviously, we want you to use our stuff, right? But we don't want you to feel as though you're locked in to our solution. So when you look at the Nutanix solutions as it relates to GPT, you can see that on the left, if you are interested in the full stack and you want to get pretty much everything from Nutanix, you can do that, right? From the GPU-enabled servers to the Nutanix cloud infrastructure that is going to consist of our hyperconverged platform, our software. On top of that, you can deploy Nutanix Kubernetes platform, Nutanix Enterprise AI. We package that all up, including Nutanix Unified Storage. Do not forget, as you're thinking through enterprise AI or using AI in the enterprise, that data is not a part of that story. More specifically, storage. Storage is a huge part of that. And fortunately, Nutanix has that baked into the solution. So you can go with this single platform. Now, for customers who already have are already a fairly modern shop, they already have the infrastructure built out. They already have a Kubernetes platform. We can kind of come in and layer AI over the top of that. So it doesn't rely, Nutanix AI is not dependent on the rest of the Nutanix platform. It can be deployed as a standalone component exclusive of Nutanix, and that's true of whether you've deployed Kubernetes on premises, or whether you've deployed or leveraged Kubernetes in public cloud. So again, some various different ways to get this deployed depending on what you may or may not have already in place.
So basically, to summarize real quickly there, and that validated enterprise AI stack there on the left, that's like if you're kind of new to this, you don't have a Kubernetes deployed. You want to start from, hey, I'm new to this, right? There's a validated enterprise stack that you can turnkey solution where it just simplifies that whole process. But if you're more advanced and you already have that infrastructure, you can go with the stack on the right. So it's pretty flexible, gives you a choice. So let's summarize. There's kind of a use case here that was interesting. How does Nutanix use Gen AI? I mean, this was interesting. Can you explain this, Dennis?
So yeah, we've got a couple of different ways, really a few different ways that Nutanix uses generative AI. We also use discriminative AI, and there's a little bit of a difference there. But the way we use it is, as an example, there was a period of time where I used to have to, if I wanted to find a presentation or get an answer to a technical question, there were probably 7 different places that I could go internally to find this information. And what we did was we implemented a system that would search all of those repositories, if you will, simultaneously. And that was actually very, very useful. But then we discovered that we could really narrow in on the information that we wanted to get based on certain data repositories. So what you see here is where we first started with an internal GPT system that leveraged very specific data repositories. And this is retrieval augmented generation, where I can go in to an app that is a plugin to our messaging system, and I can ask it a question. I did it literally just this morning. Somebody called me up and they said, "Hey, I'm having trouble figuring out how to do a thing, right? Replicate Prison Central." And so I just went to GPT and I said, "How do you replicate Prison Central, protection policies?" And it literally gave me an answer. And then it also gave me links to where that answer came from. So it was very, very handy in that regard, because again, in the past, I'm phoning a friend, I'm asking the interwebs and just to try and find this answer. And this has made it very, very useful to us.
Yeah.
And the reason I wanted to kind of point that out, those 2 different use cases, is because what you'll find as you look at deploying AI in your organization is that you don't have to. It's not an all or none. You don't have to create a catch-all for Gen AI. You really can deploy this with models that are specific for certain types of use cases. So you might have a Gen AI model, a system, an interface specifically for research and development. You might have one for human resources. You might have one for end user access to. And so understand that you can create multiple models and leverage them in different ways. And Nutanix Enterprise AI gives you a management console with observability, so that you can actually see what models are being used and how they are being used. And that's a very important part of the overall story. So that's just a couple of ways that we use it internally, using our own stuff, right?
To me, this is the exciting part. I mean, just think about this enhancing the customer experience. Just think this is where I see the future going here, is like companies are going to do this, and they're going to allow it to not only their internal people so they can be more efficient, they can find information, but think about it even going to the public, to their customers, where their customers can go to their websites and search for data instead of having to click around. It's just to me, that's This is what is really cool and exciting. Well, let's summarize here. Let's go to the if we summarize Nutanix AI, it makes IT admins AI admins. I think that's a big step there for simplicity, because not all of us are really sophisticated in the AI area, and it simplifies the LMM operations, the managing of them. It gives you a choice of your LMMs. You can deploy on any Kubernetes, and it adapts. So I think that's really what's really cool about Nutanix Enterprise AI. It's kind of like Nutanix when how they simplified virtualization on modern HCI platforms. Nutanix is simplifying GenAI in this similar process. So as you embark on your generative AI journey and explore how to integrate GenAI into your organization, Evolving Solutions is here to partner with you, with your business, every step of the way. Our approach, the Nutanix AI approach, is designed to ensure your success by focusing on practical, value-driven outcomes. Here's how we do it. So first of all, we'll help you identify specific business challenge. So think about that. We got to identify something. We're not just going to do Gen AI just to do Gen AI, right? We need a specific business challenge, and we got to quantify that value of that challenge, right? And then we need to design something, right? Design and implement an AI solution to solve that business challenge. And then this is the best part. We deliver a delightful 2-day operations of this new critical AI application. So as we wrap up, let's turn our eyes to what lies ahead. This is kind of exciting. The world of AI is accelerating at lightning speed. I mean, it's going fast, unlocking tremendous value. And this is just the beginning. There's so much more on the horizon. The next generation of IT is unfolding right before us as it's just going fast. And if we don't adapt and learn or move forward, we're probably at a risk of getting left behind. So fortunately, Evolving Solutions and Nutanix are your partners on this journey. And we're ready to harness the power of AI to drive your business into the future. The future is now, so let's get to work and build it together. So if you have any questions, feel free to send us questions at info@evolvingsol.com. We look forward to hearing your questions, look forward to hearing from you. I'm sure you have some questions, but so write that down, use that as a way to reach out to us. And we just want to say thank you so much for joining us at this discussion. Thank you, Dennis, for being our guest. This was a fun time, and hopefully this topic caused some interest. So again, thank everybody for joining us at our coffee talk. Thank you.